writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul, thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Ben.
So you programmed 2 movies today, this double feature. My first understanding of this was that, it was going to be like that Out of the Past and Bambi movies
Right.
that were so unrelated, that the relation between them was that they had nothing to do with each other, right? Yours are very related.
They are. And so I'm aiming it towards my kids or kids that might be home on a Saturday afternoon. 2 films that I saw as a kid. This double bill comes from March 1977. It played at the Americana in Panorama City. And it's Bugsy Malone and the Bad News Bears.
Both movies released, I guess, at the end of 1976
I think
officially,
so,
but
yeah.
for you, 77.
That's right. I saw them independently, and I saw them
And then
together.
you saw them together. And they're both about kids, right? These are both mostly, Bugsy Malone, which is the first one, and we'll follow with Bad News Bears. Bugsy Malone, it's actually not about kids, but it's only kids.
It's only kids. It's Alan Parker's first film. He wrote and directed it. But it's not just a kids' movie, it's also a musical, and it's a gangster picture. So it's ticking every single box so far. I don't know what we're missing of things that are great. And you also have Paul Williams doing the songs.
Yeah, some great, great songs in here. So if you haven't seen Bugsy Malone, you are going to see children delivering lines as if they were grown-up gangsters.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And you are going to hear every song sung by these kids dubbed by an adult.
Right.
And it is going to weird you out, right? But if you were 6 when you saw it, very different experience.
Well, no, it made perfect sense to me. It wasn't weird at all. It was heaven. It was everything I dreamed of. Tommy guns that shoot whipped cream pies. It was never weird to me at all.
So this is show business?
I read recently that looking back at the film, Alan Parker and Paul Williams might have had a misunderstanding. If you read the same thing about Alan Parker, I guess, didn't want squeaky kids' voices, according to him, and then Paul Williams had done these demos, or maybe they were going to be demos, or maybe it was just the final recordings, but with adults singing the parts. And by the time Alan Parker got them to shoot, it was too late to change anything. I don't know what about it works. I couldn't even describe why I think it works, but it just does.
Well, there's no winking.
No.
In this. It's Scott Baio and Jodie Foster sort of leading the cast. First of all, Jodie Foster is amazing. From the moment you see her for the first time, you're like, oh my God, that's a movie star. She was 13 when she shot this. But they don't play cute kids playing these roles.
No, they don't. Performances across the board are terrific, whether it's Fat Sam, John Cassisi.
So he's playing basically Al Capone character.
Al Capone character.
Yeah. We've had ourselves a little break. Who knows the Hung Fu Shin Laundry Company? Well, my friend on the telephone here says that's where they stash the guns, right? Get moving.
Things starring kids generally are not well shot. It kind of feels like they're just like herding cats and kind of filming them. But if this is beautifully photographed, as all of Alan Parker's films are, you can feel that it's somebody coming from advertising, that generation of directors that came from the UK that were so good at shooting Ridley Scott. Adrian Lyne, but Alan is, to me, the fullest of them all, just because he was such a great writer as well.
Alan Parker went on to make a lot of varied movies, right?
He sure
it's
did.
Hard to put your finger on what his strength was. But he played a role in supporting you in the early days of your career.
He did. I had made a short film that went on, that turned into Boogie Nights, and he came to judge.
You made it in high school, right?
In high school, yeah. When I was a senior in high school, and there was a student film competition down at USC, and I went down there, and he was the judge, and he gave us first prize, and it was like the first time I'd shown anything that I'd ever done outside of my living room to anybody, and Alan Parker, who. It wasn't just because he was there. He was already kind of one of my favorite directors and thought it was good. And that was so meaningful to me and exactly what you would need. If you're a desperate young filmmaker and you're in high school and you've just put yourself out there for a director that you love to say you did a good job, you cannot underestimate what a kind of boost that is to your feelings.
All right, Paul, let's take a look at the movie. We'll talk afterwards. Here it is, from 1976, written and directed by Alan Parker, Scott Baio, and Jodie Foster in Bugsy Malone. I'm back here with Paul Thomas Anderson, writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson, who programmed tonight's double feature, Bugsy Malone. We'll have Bad News Bears coming up. You were just singing a couple of bars to My Name is Tallulah. It's very good.
Oh, that's off camera only.
It's a bridge too far? I got you. But it was very nice.
I was singing My Name is Tallulah.
You were singing My Name is Tallulah. I saw this, I guess, on television when I was maybe, if it came out in 76, I was 9. I'm going to guess I saw it, I don't know. I just guesswork, late 70s.
Late 70s, right? Yeah.
So, and I don't really have I don't remember it, right? I remember seeing it. So I knew what it was. But it still got me, seeing the kids sing. But until I saw her, I'm like, okay, these are not them. Like, it took me that long to sort of get positive that there's no way they just searched high and low for kids with really deep voices, children with really deep voices. Most of the songs written by Paul Williams, and he sang a couple too.
The story comes from the back of the vinyl record where Alan Parker wrote some liner notes, and he expressed that he had written the script and he needed somebody to write the songs, and who he really wanted was Paul Williams, and he had to go meet Paul Williams in Las Vegas, who was in residency at the Sands, or maybe he was on tour. And they met at a place that I'd never heard of, looked it up, called Foxy's. It's a guy named Fox who ran it, said, I'm...
What kind of place is it?
It's a kind of a half deli, half coffee shop. Apparently the guy said there was a piece of real estate that had come free, and somebody said, you should really put a coffee shop there. So as legend goes, he drove down to Cantor's and said, how do I run a coffee shop? And they explained to him. But anyway, this place became pretty famous as a spot for people to hang out. And as legend goes, according to Alan Parker, they went to Foxy's for the better part of a week. And the way he describes it, that Paul Williams had one of those gifts to turn a phrase into a beautiful song. And apparently that's what he did over a week at Foxy's, over Coors and salami sandwiches.
We'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Jodie Foster. She had 4 films come out in 1976. The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, which is a movie she completely carries, along with Martin Sheen. This one, Bugsy Malone, Freaky Friday, and then the other one, the Scorsese
That's called
pick.
Range.
Yeah, and Taxi Driver.
And Taxi Driver is the...
And you see it here, like it's Range, and it's Range as a 13-year-old.
I know. Alan Parker talked about her and that she just had an inherent understanding of how films work, that it was kind of freakish. I suppose it could also be weird. A kid's too precocious, they ask too many questions, but he said she just had this innate understanding of the cameras and the crew and the performance and what was needed. And he said it was magical to work with.
I don't suspect many people saw her as precocious.
No.
Just confident, and it sounds like respectful,
That's right.
And eager to learn. I think the quote is basically he always thought that if he couldn't work one day, if he was out ill, she could fill in at 13. She'd know what. Jodie will know what to do. Right.
Exactly right.
All right, Paul, thanks very much.
Yeah, of course.
That was Bugsy Malone, but stay with us because coming up the second half of the Paul Thomas Anderson double feature, also from 1976. Bad News Bears, next on Turner Classic Movies. Once again with writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson. Paul, great to see you. Thanks for doing this.
All right.
We got this idea, 2 for 1, 2 movies from one artist, filmmaker in your case. This grew out of you and Steven Spielberg and Martin Scorsese talking with some TCMers about, what you remember, right? Why movie, the basic beginning to the conversation, the kickoff, the impetus for the conversation was why movies matter to us, right? And you have expressed better than anybody the emotional memory of seeing a movie.
Right, the emotional memory, meaning that sometimes it's the movie, most of the times it's the movie, but a lot of what is the memory of the experience.
Right.
Who
you can have experience even if you don't like the movie, right?
That's absolutely right. I mean, but for me, they're all closely attached. I was lucky enough to have a mom who loved the movies. So, you got a doctor's appointment at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and she's got to take you from school. Well, I go back to school. Let's just go to the movies, know. And I got lucky like that. And I was able to see quite a few movies that way when I should have been in school. And probably movies that I shouldn't have seen, but that's okay. That was the idea.
We just saw Bugsy Malone from 1976. This one from Paramount, also in 1976, Bad News Bears. And they're not just 1976 movies, these are movies that where the focus, many of the biggest stars of the Bad News Bears and all of Bugsy Malone, these are children.
It's nice to have a kids movie for kids that obviously the adults would want to watch as well, right? Michael Ritchie directed Bad News Bears. Bill Lancaster wrote it, Burt Lancaster's son, who has written two of my favorite films, John Carpenter's The Thing and The Bad News Bears. He left us too early, but I mean, those are two pretty solid credits. And it's a film that, if I had to pick one film that really looked how my childhood looked, it's this one. It was shot in the San Fernando Valley. It was shot in the North Hills Little League. I played Little League in Sherman Oaks, not too far from there. But the haircuts, the uniforms, the beer cans in the parents' hands, all of it is exactly where I grew up.
This is wonderful and funny. And it's a little innocent.
Well, listen, as somebody that played Little League at that time, and as somebody who now is coaching Little League at this time, kids are exactly the same as they were then and they are now. It's all exactly the same. And I think that in the script, and who knows if some stuff was improvised or, just to kind of make it natural, Bill Lancaster has such an ability to kind of carve out the multiple types of personalities that end up on a ball club together. There's always going to be a couple kids that are superior athletes. There's always going to be the little Tanner kid who's looking for a fight. There are that many personalities in the dugout, and the film does a really good job of, yes, telling the Mathau story and telling Tatum O'Neal's story. Those are our main characters. But Michael Ritchie and Bill Lancaster do such a nice job of handling everybody. Everybody kind of gets a moment.
Yeah, you know something about every one of them. They're all these types that you care about.
Yeah.
And that's an effective screenplay, and then in the hands of a director who knew how to tell a story.
Michael Ritchie is such an interesting filmmaker, from The Candidate and Downhill Racer, Bad News Bears, Prime Cut.
Really talented director that gets overlooked a bit, maybe because there's no particular signature style.
He really does things that to this day are hard to do and you get very envious about, where you stop and you go, well, wait a minute, is this like a documentary? Do those people in the background know that they're filming? Right. It's very effortless. It's
hard to do, it strikes me, because I'm, and I was in media, well, still am, but I was a reporter. Throngs, crowd, hard to do in films. And Michael Ritchie has done it very effectively. Yeah. This movie has a lot of really funny lines and really, again, gives you an idea of character in really effective ways. I mean, right away, it's not just that Walter Matthau comes in and is taking money to coach Little League, which is, not done. And it's not just that he drinks, right? Mm-hmm. But it's that little extra touch. He's got a beer, but he tops it off with whiskey, right?
Yeah.
And then right away you're like, oh, I get it. This guy's a screw-up.
Yeah. Walter Matthau walking out of the dugout and calling time. He's really one of the best. Every time he's on, he's so natural, funny, but can turn and give depth to things, and a mug like no other.
Okay.
And the best drunk, because he doesn't seem drunk at all, but he's just drunk all the time.
Drunk all the time, right. Starts early, ends late, right? Never. He's not more drunk at 9 p.m. than he was at 12:30.
He's just always drunk.
Right. He's the same exact level. All right, you're going to see it all right here. Here it is, from Paramount in 1976, directed by Michael Ritchie, Walter Matthau, Tatum O'Neal, Jackie Earle Haley, The Bad News Bears. You know from the moment that you see that they've been sponsored by Chico's Bail Bonds that this is going to be a special movie, right? Mm-hmm. Right away. Mm-hmm. I only wrote down like 4 things watching this movie. And one of them's just Chico's Bail Bonds because it's funny. Yeah. And then Jackie Earle Haley says to a grown woman,
I'm hitting 841. I'm on the Bears. You live around here?
I'm hitting 841, right?
Yeah.
I'm hitting 841. I'm on the Bears. You live around here.
Yeah. My mother always tried to inject some kind of, class into our education. And we were driving in a station wagon, and music from Carmen came on, and she said, does anybody know what this is? And we all said, Bad News Bears! She said, no, not Bad News. It was in Bad News Bears.
Before that. Yeah, that's right.
So to us, it's the score from the Bad News Bears.
Yeah, there's also a little lesson in there about unoffendability. And I'm not really talking about the particularly off-color line. But I'm just, in general, like roll with it. They do not get mad at each other when insulted.
Right.
Right? And, I mean, they just sort of, they roll with it. Sometimes they say something back. Some it might even hurt their feelings a little bit, but within short order, they get beyond it. And I think there's some lesson in there. I mean, by the way, when I was listing these other impressive characters, I left out Lupus.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who's so good, right?
Well, you see.
And also provides that moment where
Lupus
Tanner gets,
right.
because Tanner's like, I can make fun of him.
That's
but
right.
You can't make fun of my brother.
That's exactly
I'm going
right.
to beat the crap out of you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's the difference that you see when how Vic Morrow treats his
own son.
His own son.
Yeah. But also, you don't know anything about this kid, and all of a sudden, we're given an entire arc for this kid, and the audience cares deeply and suddenly.
Well, you've only had glimpses of those characters here and there throughout, and that it's certainly not a movie that belongs to the Yankees pitcher or to Vic Morrow, but the story ends up requiring that confrontation. Where normally in a film you say, wait, why are we detouring over here to focus on the Yankee pitcher and the opposing coach? That's not normally how you should write a screenplay, but it ends up contributing to the overall thing. And it's just so, that's how good a director Michael Ritchie is.
Right. And if you wondered whether Vic Morrow was a good actor, and I think TCM fans know that he is, like just because he's got to convey, he knows he's done something terrible.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's not, this is not the time to admit it right there.
Yeah.
Or maybe he never will. I don't know. But he feels it. No question.
Yeah, well, that's some 70s dad shit right there.
Yeah, that's right. It was, anyway, it's a really special film. It's moving. And then just at the moment when you think it might be schmaltzy, he's like, nope, we're not going to let that happen.
Apparently, there's an alternate ending where the Bears...
where Kelly Leak is safe, right?
Yes.
And they've tied it, and then they go on to win, and they're the champions.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I know they don't win, even 17 years after not seeing it. I know they don't win, but I couldn't quite remember. And I'm like, do they tie it? Was it extra innings? Like, is he going to score?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was an inside the park grand slam, just a whisper. I think he got under the tag, too. I think on replay. Anyway, Paul's great stuff. Thanks very much. And thanks for bringing in these two movies. And speaking of schmaltzy, thanks for all you've done for this channel. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to everybody who works here, and it means a lot to them.
Of course. All right. Happy to be here, Ben. Thank you.
Writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson. Stick around. More to come here on Turner Classic Movies.